This is Profit Talks, a podcast produced by Hayek Global College and dedicated to exploring how you can ethically maximize profits. For more episodes, please visit hayekcollege.com/profit. Hello everyone, my guest today is Flavio Barreto from Brasil Paralelo. Brasil Paralelo is a production company in Brazil who has been very successful in this new kind of business, which is creating videos in a decentralized form on YouTube. And they're producing documentaries that has been highly successful in Brazil, promoting ideas. They have around 20 million views already in all their videos, and these includes 5 million views per semester. They have a membership base and 120,000 members in their community from 25 different countries. And Flavio Barreto is the head of customer success and responsible for the partnerships of Brasil Paralelo and is here to talk to us today. Hi, Flavio, it's an honor to have you here.
Hi, Edson. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you and your audience.
Tell us, how was the idea of creating Brasil Paralelo in the past? How did it happen?
Well, it happened in 2016. Three college colleagues got together and they organized an event, a congress that we call it is still in our platform and on YouTube for free for everyone to see. It's 6 days of this congress that we called, and this was the first event promoted by Brasil Paralelo. It was very successful. It was amidst political tension here in Brazil, and so right off the bat, the Congress was a huge success. It hit the sweet spot of an audience that was hungry for more knowledge about liberalism, the good one actually, classical liberalism and political theory, and it gathered many thinkers of Brazil, conservative thinkers, and this event, given the success, it instead of the 3 founders, Henrique, Lucas, and Felipe, they were like 24 years old at the time. It's 24, 25, and they could have easily got the money, put in the pocket, and gone home. But they felt a sense of a mission to continue this journey and to keep providing the Brazilian people with knowledge about the classical liberalism and philosophy, history, and so they didn't take this opportunity just as a business opportunity and faced it as a mission in the sense of a mission. That's how it started. So after that, they decided, it was a bold decision. They decided to produce the Brazil series. It's a series of 6 documentaries about the history of Brazil in a non-Marxist way, because they understood the 3 founders. They were really close friends, and when they had conversations in their free time, like they studied in different schools and they compared the stories about Brazil that they had heard from their history teachers, and they realized that it was a different story from one another. So they decided to go after the real story, to what actually happened in Brazil, and the result was the series Brasil, a Última Cruzada, the Last Crusade, Brazil, the Last Crusade, which was the first huge success, and it's still one of our favorite productions till this day.
So you were reviewing the history of Brazil in this documentary from a different angle from what you were taught in school. because what we see is that we have a certain type of bias when we learn the Brazilian history in our schools, right? And then you came
Yeah.
from a different angle to teach. And how was how was it received in the beginning? Was it a success straight off the bat?
Yeah, it was really successful. I used to be a member, and this series was what I call a red pill, right, for me, because I lived abroad. And I dreamed about moving to the United States or Canada or Europe, and I didn't think Brazil had a history that was worth being a patriot for, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
as the series goes and starts showing like that the history of Brazil, like there was a certain part of Brazilian history that our heroes were kind of canceled, and and then it was a movement of that the heroes of Brazil started being like a tree, or
Yes.
or the fauna or the nature, but no person that had anything heroic to show about. And when they showed like people like José Bonifácio and the whole history about the King of Portugal that moved the court to Brazil, and the history of Brazil, like we in Brazil we have a very mixed ethnicity, right?
Yes.
You can see a blonde guy, a blonde man, he can be Brazilian. Japanese looking or Asian looking person can be Brazilian. A black
Yes.
man
Yes.
can be Brazilian.
You say
All
Brazilians have no
ethnicities
faith.
are, they have no faith.
Yeah.
So this is part of the history of the country. You know that it was one of the strategies of Portugal while colonizing Brazil was to integrate Europeans to the locals,
Mm-hmm.
and this goes completely against the narrative that we see in schools in Brazil. So I became a patriot for uh, partly because, mostly because of what I saw in this series of documentaries. They all make perfect sense. They present you with facts and events that you cannot refute. So
Yes.
I had to become a patriot, and it was a great thing for me myself, and I I realized that Brazil really did have a history that was worth being a patriot for, and
Yes.
this has completely changed my life and gave me the sense to sponsor this company
Yes.
that I became a member then, and then ended up, I never knew, but I would end up working for this company, this project that is really nothing short of amazing.
That's fantastic. I I had a conversation with an entrepreneur from France who is responsible for creating some tourism related business in Marseille, France. And he was saying that no, the goal of every company should be to create fans that are like the fans of football teams that we have in Brazil, for example. You want people who really are into what you're doing and defend your brand, right? And he gave an example. Now, some brands will never do that. For example, I would never see a fan of JP Morgan, the bank. Oh, I'm a very good fan of JP Morgan, or I'm a fan of Bradesco here because it's a really good brand. But certain types of businesses are successful with that. And then one huge example is you guys right now, because you just gave me the example how you went from becoming a big fan of Brasil Paralelo and the videos that they did, and then later became an employee. And you I can see that you still have this passion in you, right? So it's a good example of how you should start always with the vision of where you're going. You're always talking to me about the vision. I'm asking here about the business, and you're talking about the vision, which just shows how strongly ingrained in you is this type of model, right?
Yeah, I come from the financial market, and I have never experienced something like this. Like to have everyone who deeply believe in the purpose of your company and on its mission, and it makes everything different, completely different from anything I've ever seen. And I know some businesses are tough to find a big purpose. Like a guy who owns a glass factory, then he goes to the mountain with a highly paid consultant, and they come back with a mission. Oh, my mission is to end the thirst of the world. And it's it's kind of
Yeah.
hard, man. It's kind of hard to get everyone on the boat and believe it. But so it's not impossible. I believe this helps, but aside from the purpose, each person here should be not only thinking about the purpose of the company, but into doing the best they can at what they are doing,
Yes.
because in everyone's day you're gonna have tasks that are not that pleasant to do, or cumbersome, or kind of tedious,
Yes.
but you got to get over them. It helps when you have a big purpose, but I think anyone can find that in when like aiming to for excellence, you know.
Yes. Yes. And let's talk about your your business now, right? Taking a step forward. You when Brazil did Brasil Paralelo have any benchmark that they saw in another business, maybe in the United States or maybe elsewhere, where you could do documentaries and be financed by a membership base, or was that something you came up with?
Uh, there are some influences, but exactly the way we do things here, there's no business in the world that we see that do this, because we combine the best ideas, the ideas we believe, like in the free market, and and we combine that with storytelling and art. And this combination, aside from the fact that we take no government subsidies, and even our members' contributions, they are not tax deductible. So it makes this a unique. Like you have some very competent organizations like PragerU, but
Mm-hmm.
PragerU is more focused on the learning than on making art, and we try to combine those things together.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in some ways we're close to PragerU, but in some other ways, in the storytelling, in the art form, we're very different. And in the length of our documentaries, PragerU is like very focused on 5-minute videos, and we are in feature films, right, above 40 minutes.
Awesome. And are you, so your income is not tax deductible, so you're not a non-profit. Are you a for-profit business?
We aim for profit, and we think this makes us freer to do our research and criticize the government. Also, it makes it easier. And we are for profit. We think profit, seeking profit. We believe in the invisible hand. Uh,
Uh-huh.
we believe that seeking profit actually makes us more efficient. We in this year, only in 2020, we are we're going to produce like 5 documentaries. We have released 4, and we're coming to the 5th in the end of the year, and till the end of the year. And so we see no conflict here. And one of the things that we are very glad we have is that our base of customers is very spread. So it's 120,000 paying members, which makes it very easy for us to do whatever we think is right, and
Yes.
having nobody that has a stake in it that can claim, hey, if you go this way of researching, I'm gonna withdraw my money from your company.
Yeah.
Well, it's gonna be it's gonna be at most like 600 reais, right? So it's not
Yes.
gonna be a
Yes.
big deal. This is a very good thing.
This is fantastic because you have a business which typically takes a lot of investment. Like if let's say if you're going to produce a documentary, you have to invest a lot to create the production, to get the right people, to hire all the teams, and at the same time, it could this money could have come from a donation or an investor who wants to make money with it. But as I understand, you didn't do any of the ways, right? You didn't do you didn't get any donations from big donors, and you did not get an investor that would look to profit the documentary. I don't know. You put a Netflix or something and get it. You actually got members, and then you give something back to the members. Well, why would people become members? Why did you become member back in the day
Well,
to Brasil Paralelo?
it passes by reciprocity.
Mm-hmm.
So all our documentaries are free for everyone to watch. So we release them for free. It's on YouTube. You can go there. You can watch it. No problem. Free. But and people like our content so much that we encourage them that if they like the content, if they want more, we have additional features that we offer if once they become member. So we call them to become our members and help us keep producing the films that they watched. So it's a feeling of reciprocity,
Yes.
uh, and so we have different plans of membership,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a 10 reais per month, that is like $2, and we have a, a 50 reais per month, which is like $10. uh, and the first level, you get extra interviews and ebooks and extra material about
Mm-hmm.
the movies we make. We also have access to live sessions. We have, like, today we have a live session with some interviewees that we're going to talk about the American elections and how this impacts the world. And this is a closed live session for members, and they can ask questions and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And the second level opens for a platform of courses that go from Austrian School of Economics, um, uh, political theory, history, philosophy, and it's one of the largest. I believe it's the largest platform for courses that it's like all you can all you can eat, right?
Yes.
All you
Yes.
can you pay 50 reais per month, like $10 per month, and you have access at to 100% of our content, all the courses, whatever you want to see that we do is there, and you can take the
do, do,
courses you can take.
so you actually produce the courses that are in your platform? You hire
Yes.
professors and do all the process of creating the courses?
Yeah, we hire professors, teachers, and we record. We are a video production company, right?
Yes,
So
yes. So you would have a
we
very good
record the
competitive advantage in editing and interviewing professors and everything.
yeah, and uh, and so in our courses we cover like feminism, um, uh, vices that we have. It's not only about political theory, but subjects that range from an academic standpoint
Mm-hmm.
to a day-to-day topics that are trending and that you can find more about. So, like feminism, we have a feminism course with Ana Caroline Campagnolo. I don't know if you know her,
Mm-hmm.
but it's we have a vices, a course on vices, the mechanics and the neurochemistry of how vices work and how
Mm-hmm.
our daily lives are influenced by the vices we have, social networks, and all the types of vices that people tend to have. And we, I'm just giving some examples of the courses. It's what else? We have on globalism. It's a recent course that is very good. That is releasing on the 12th of this month.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. We make the documentaries, and we every time we release the documentary, we have a campaign going with extra benefits to the new
To the
members.
members.
And so the ones who pay 10 reais per month, the first level, they will get access to the premium content if they become members in this product launch phase that we
Mm-hmm.
have at like now we are at one after the End of Nations documentary. So this is kind of like our business model works.
Very cool. Very cool. It's interesting to see your venture into the educational business, because I've been in the education business for quite a while, um, and I'm from the university side, right? I've worked for the past 7 years at Uniceplac, which was a family business here at university, and uh, we even though we try to innovate in the university sector, we can never get close to the innovations that that people like you are doing, even in the education sector. From you not you're coming from the video production, and you're innovating in the education business, and you have the whole competitive advantage of producing and with a lot more efficiency for education, because you're a producer. So it's very interesting to see how this innovation is happening, and it's not necessarily from the education sector, right? You are a huge competitor, might become a competitor to other universities. Why not? This type of dynamics is very interesting to watch. And tell me, you have a certain ideological positioning in your videos, and that's part of your mission. But are you criticized in the media for expressing these types of views? Have you been criticized by the traditional media outlets or any of the sort?
Uh, well, it's everyone here has his the things he or she believes, right? But when we decide to tackle a subject on a documentary, there's one thing that concerns us, which is following the truth.
Okay.
So we cannot have preconceived notions when we tackle it, when we research it. Like, let's say education, one of our most successful documentaries, Patria Educadora. Um, like, we had certain beliefs, things that we believed at first when we first started the documentary, and some things at the end of it, some things had changed, some things had not changed, and were confirmed during the process of the documentary. So, like, uh, what I believe, we have a set of values that we follow in this company, and it stays on the wall. But it's we always push to make them to walk the talk,
Yes.
and one the at the top of them is truth. And the thing that makes us different from a few organizations is that, in our opinion, the truth is not relative. It's something that you have to have always to be striving to get closer to.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the difference. Some people believe everyone has his or her truth, and we don't believe that. We believe there is a truth. Uh, Many times, most of the times, we we cannot have a total picture of the truth, but we gotta recognize where it is and move towards the truth. That makes complete difference from unfortunately what most media outlets today are are uh, are presenting us with,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
because the problem is, I see usually with the media outlets, it's probably an economics problem, because uh, if you're just doing some news, which are the news that people that is the truth, and there's nothing too polemic with it, people don't want to open it. People want to see that when the house is on fire, when you put a politician against the other, and then when you put some polemics on it, that's what sells. That's what the media wants to see. And at the same time, you are dedicated to producing truth documentaries, which are going on the opposite direction of creating polemics. You're not there to create polemic, as you said. You're there to speak the truth, and while doing good research and producing videos that actually are you told me you're learning as you go with the video, right? You thought you were going to go a certain direction with the Pátria Educadora documentary, but then you chose a different one. So it's quite interesting how you could find a niche of the truth and still be very successful with it, right? That's probably because people want to hear the truth is, I guess.
Yeah. One thing that I always try to think and follow is like uh, I want to see myself as a person who's perfectly ready to become a communist if I see the truth there. So
Yes.
if I see what would I do if I today would look into communism and find truth there? Would
Yeah.
I be ready to become a communist? And I wish I were, right, because that's a sign of intellectual honesty. And
Yes.
it's this is a phrase that can be taken out of context and sound
Yeah.
bad, right? But I think you got to be ready to find the truth and not be married to your ideas. The things that I think about today, the things that I agree, the philosophies that I embrace are somewhat different from the ones I embraced when I was 20 or 25, and
Yes.
and this idea that I must be right. This is actually a poison to intellectual honesty.
Yes.
So
I love what you just said, because it's a big criticism that I have with people who take an ideological position and a just blind, they stick with no matter what, and are not willing to absorb new information. And we even have in our values, one of the values we have is that we should be critical thinkers and independent thinkers for what we strive to pass to our students at higher global college. And it's exactly that. I'm very critical to people who take a stance and okay, I'm a right wing now, or it could be the other way too. I'm a left wing, and they stick to it as if it was a religion or something that they cannot move out of. Even when they are faced with the other conflicting information, which is the truth, right? So your position is perfect. If I would if someone convinces me that I should be communist, I would become a communist. But you have to show me the facts that would lead me
yes,
to getting there. I think that is perfect.
given the facts that I see now, I'm not a communist,
Yeah.
and don't think I'm gonna change that my mind about that. But
Yes.
if new facts come and overcome the mountains of facts to show that it's a failed system,
Yes.
I hope I am ready to change my mind.
From a logical, from a moral perspective, from a utilitarian perspective, you have any of that. If we are approved, we should change. That's a very good point to see. I like that. And what is your favorite documentary from Brasil Paralelo, Flavio? You personally?
uh, I like 1964, which was it was based on a book where in Czechoslovakia, the files of the former KGB or the it wasn't KGB, it was I forget the name of the equivalent to the KGB in Czechoslovakia, but the files got open after the end of Soviet Union, and there was a Brazilian there who found some papers that showed the fact that that there were spies acting, Soviet spies acting in Brazil, and it shows the story of it of the military government we had in Brazil from a new perspective and with abundance of facts that showed that there were spies working here. I think it's a marvelous documentary, and it's also based very much on the book by Mihai Pacepa, the highest-ranking Soviet official ever to desert from the Soviet Union, which is called Disinformation. So the leading theory about the documentary is about disinformation. What is disinformation? And it brings the facts of the Brazilian society of the 60s and the communist actions that were happening in Brazil and how they planned to take power in Brazil. And it was for me a work of art. It's the kind of thing that it didn't change my mind about what I thought happened, but it gave me an overwhelming amount of evidence to what I believe really happened at the time.
And what is it that you believe really happened at the time?
I believe that there were Soviet agents, spy agents in Brazil, that there was the intention of the communist revolutionaries to take power in Brazil, and and well, it's this was confirmed.
Yes, yes, yeah. It's for our listeners there that are not Brazilians. It's quite an inflection point in our history, right? Is what 1964 was when the military took over the country, and it's that there's a huge dispute there between, well, was it necessary to do it or not? You know, what was the conditions? And we'll put the link to the documentary on the. Do you probably have the English subtitles, right, on the
Yeah,
on the
yeah, I do.
documentary? Yes, I saw a couple of videos you have, so you probably are gonna you're gonna have a good time watching this documentary because it's a great. They're great materials that were being produced by Brasil Paralelo. And about you,
And just
go ahead.
one thing about this documentary, we before the documentary was even released, we were accused of producing a documentary in favor of the military at the time. And the documentary has 38 criticisms about the military, and it doesn't have one acknowledgement of something right that they did. It has nothing, no we didn't say they were right on this or that, nothing. But we did have 38 criticism about the military in Brazil at the time. So, and this was something that the one of the newspaper here, O Globo, one of the largest newspapers here, they published an article saying that we were in favor of the military, and we went on court against them, and we won the lawsuit that allowed us to publish on the paper a message. I don't know how you call it in English, but they gave us the right to publish an article
A
saying
disclaimer.
that, yeah, where we said that they actually lied about that, and because we weren't actually, in no point of our documentary we were in favor of the military.
Yes, fantastic. And it's quite we have to make a point in that, you know, and as classical liberals, that military dictatorship is not liberalism. No, it's
Yeah,
actually the opposite of what we defend. Sometimes we see people, just because we like the political economy of what Chile did in the 1970s, that doesn't mean we like Pinochet. It's two
yeah,
different. It's two different angles. We like free markets. We like uh, the things that comes with liberty. And if you look at the history of Brazil, the military dictatorship produced a lot of state-run companies. They started the huge debt that led to the hyperinflation on the 80s, and it was basically the militaries who created this whole huge state that we have today, right? That really hinders the development of the country.
exactly. They were very in favor of interventionism, which is something that we don't like. That's why we don't take any government money. Even is very so produced, which is the film industry. It's very hard to do it without government money, and but we see that uh, to when you decide not to take it, it ends up being good because it forces you to be more efficient, and that's what we believe. Good investment is what pushes a society forward.
Yes, exactly. And for Brasil Paralelo now, Flavio, what is the direction that your company is taking? What are the plans? Where do you want to take Brasil Paralelo now?
We have a clear goal. We are now 120,000 subscribers, paying subscribers on a monthly basis, and we want to reach 1 million by 2022. So
1 million, that's 0.5% of the Brazil population.
yeah, it's
It's quite a lot.
it's a lot. It's a lot, but we believe in it. We believe in this mission. We believe there's a high demand uh, for productions that are focused on bringing the truth to the public. We had a certain adjustments that we made in the this year, right? We now have in the beginning of the year we were like 10,000 subscribers, and we didn't have the 10 highs plan, right? In March, when we released Patria Educadora, we opened this of membership, the one that is 10 reais and doesn't give 100% access, but gives partial access. And this brought us from 10,000 to 120,000 members. Uh,
Wait,
People are,
how long did that take? We went from 10,000 to 120,000 members?
yeah,
And
from
how long?
March from March the till now.
Wow,
So
fantastic.
so there is the demand. We also shifted uh, we did certain things in our production area, like we increased the speed at which we released the documentaries. Before this year it was like one documentary per year, and this year we're going to release five. So we honed the engine of video production, and we're beginning to scale it in a very fast pace. And we also hone the sales machine that we have. So we learned how to sell to our members base. How to sell our mission, and
Mm-hmm.
and how to, you know, our members, their place their trust in us, and we do our best to release the best possible content we can. And this is now being worked to a science degree, right? So we also made investments in our tech team. So we're now 10 people, 9 people, 9 software engineers. We are releasing an app by the end of the year that is going to have many features, like a feed with excerpts from our documentaries. You're going to be able to cast our documentaries into your TV screen, and not only the documentaries, but the courses as well. And we also shifted the subjects that we decide to tackle to a more urgent matters to society. Like
Mm-hmm.
we have a documentary about the COVID crisis. We have a documentary about the free speech crisis that we currently have. The
Mm-hmm.
Our free speech is at risk, and we have to fight for it. And we released a documentary about it with a following profile on each Supreme Court justice uh, after the release of the documentary. And we also released a documentary. The latest one was End of Nations, that calls the importance of the American elections for Western civilization.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are tackling subjects that are not only important but also urgent. And we develop a vision that our about our purpose, which is to bring the good ideas, feelings, uh, and values to the hearts of people. So
Yes.
this is our purpose now. Is It already was. We just defined it in a clearer vision, that was to bring the good ideas, feelings, and to the hearts of people. So it's what we aim. We have big goals. But we are on a we're snowballing. It's a nice process to
It's
see.
yeah, it's a huge success. And what I noticed is when you said March, it coincided with the COVID crisis, right? It was right in the beginning when COVID was coming to Brazil and still things started closing. Did you take that decision because of the crisis, or was it just a coincidence?
It was a uh, in March was the release of Pátria Educadora, right? Which was
Mm-hmm.
we released Pátria Educadora about education, and along with it was the release of the first level plan, the 10 highs plan. And we uh, this was another shift we have. Like, we were really uh, unsure about the future, the economic future of the company. So if you see the advertising message we had to the release of that film, it was like, if you don't become a member, we may close our doors. And
Really?
this was, yeah, this was actually true. Uh, it it We had a plan, a contingency plan, that it didn't say like who was gonna be fired. It said who was going to stay, because everyone else was going to get fired. And
Wow.
because it was a huge risk. And while this release was taking place, we have this huge crisis, the COVID crisis, lockdowns. And it was kind of like a miracle to make it work, because it was highly improbable that we were gonna see an inflection point, but towards the sky. That was what happened uh, in March this year.
Wait, so
And
let me go back. I didn't understand. Did you get into a financial crisis in your company because you reduced the price from 50 to 10, or was it something else that made the
No, no,
financial
no.
problems?
Actually, the creation of this new plan of 10 highs actually increased the sales a lot, because
Ah,
and it even helped us sell more of the premium price
wow.
of the
And
premium membership.
what happened that got your company into a financial problems?
Well, we only had 10,000 members, and we had moved from Porto Alegre to São Paulo.
Increasing costs.
The cost here is much higher than Porto Alegre. We were estimating a larger increase in our membership base, and so we needed to grow. Otherwise, we would fail.
I see, I see. So you're expecting a growth, so you increased the number of employees in your company, invested in new technologies, in new things, went to a new space, but then the revenue didn't come as you expected it was going to come. And then you had
Yes.
financial problems. But then luckily when you tried a new business model, which was reducing the price to 10 reais and trying to explore a new target, you had a huge success, right?
Yeah, it was a curious thing actually, because usually you see that releasing this new plan of 10 reais will cannibalize the more expensive one,
Yeah.
but it was the other way around. Like, having an entry level plan helped us to sell more of the premium one.
Really?
And yes,
Do
and
do you have problems with people subscribe and then leave, or is that not really much a problem?
no, we call that churn, right? We our churn is really under control. It's below the industry average. We you know two we have two motivators for a person to become member. The one is the purpose, is to help in our mission. And
Hmm.
since we already release a lot of content for free, the ones that get in and decide to pay, like, they already understand that they received a lot before
Hmm.
becoming members. And so it's the purpose plus the benefit, which is the courses, extra material, and our churn is very low because of that.
Fantastic. And just to finish here, uh, what are you curious about right now, you, Flavio? If you were to choose something to do a documentary in the future or anything, what sparks your curiosity?
What is part of my curiosity? Well, there are so many things I'm curious about, but uh, well, we're under a phase of radicalization of the opposition of the classical liberal values, and the whole Western civilization is under attack. And I'm very curious about where this radicalization is taking us. We see the scaling of violence by movements such as Black Lives Matter and Antifa, the gay rights movements, and environmentalism. All these movements, they're becoming more radicals. The media, the big media, is completely on board with these movements, and whatever unacceptable actions these movements take, like, the media, like, ignores. Like, we saw just a few months ago, like, buildings on fire, and reporters calling the protests mostly peaceful, right?
Hmm.
And with this with these American elections, that we see so many things that are weird, to say the
Yeah.
least, like the increase of mail-in votes, and and the victory of the Democratic Party candidate. and which he had more votes than Obama, which was the most popular candidate the Democratic Party ever had. He had more votes than him. It's a strange time that we see. We see the radicalization. I tend to come back to Hayek and try to see what variables I am not seeing under that will make the future not a dark scenario. That's what I think about it at night.
Well,
But
let's say that I'm an optimist. If we look at the long term, life is much better now than it used to be before. We have, despite having some violence, our violence levels are much lower than it used to be in the past. We don't have a widespread communism as we used to have a couple of years ago, in the 80s, for example. Sometimes we get into a trouble. We went through this pandemics, which the last time it happened was 100 years ago, and we did pretty well considering what used to happen in the past, right? A lot of people died more in the Spanish flu or in the death plague, the black plague. I think that's how you called it in the Europe in the Middle Ages. So, I mean, considering all that we're going through, I think we're going good. And initiatives like yours, for example, is a proof that the ideas are spreading. We are getting a lot more traction with ideas that favor peace, favor prosperity, favor freedom, and that makes me an optimist too. So I think that
I'm a firm believer of the truth. The truth will submerge if you give enough time. The only real threat that I see is the threat of censoring the internet. Because if you do that today, you can block the truth and no one will know what is actually happening in the world. And so this is the largest threat that I see today. But once the internet is free, I'm an optimist. But if the internet gets regulated and we see so many attempts of doing that, then it's going to be really hard for us to let the truth submerge.
Yes, let's keep
emerge. Sorry.
Yes, so that's what gives us is a lot of work to do to keep spreading the word and keep initiatives like yours going, and hopefully we can keep increasing the bias towards more freedom and free speech, prosperity, and all that those things that we defend. So thank you very much, Flavio, for.
Thank you, Edson. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for listening to Profit Talks. Now, do you have any comments or other business-related question? If so, please send us, and we'll be glad to explore it in future episodes. Also, be sure to subscribe and share with your friends. We are on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and many others.